Hello, Excel lovers. Welcome to another Excel tutorial. This tutorial is about absolute and relative cell referencing. Now, in your Excel journey, this is what you will be using most at times because you are likely to most at times copy and paste certain data from one place to another, and it has to be in relation to wherever you copied from to the new position that you placed it. Or maybe when you are doing autofilling, it won't distort whatever formula you are using. It will follow suit according to how you want it. It's either you want the data to remain the same data, or you want to change according to a particular cell, or according to the data in other places. So let's try and do it so that you see what I'm talking about. Yes, in this case, let's try to type a formula like this and do autofill. Now I type the formula A1. Now when I do autofill, hold on, let me bring this one to this side. Okay, now when I'm doing autofill and I bring it down, you see this formula is A2, so this is A1, A2. So Excel automatically is doing this according to the data here. So if I do this, I do the autofill, this is it. So A17. So even if I continue, it will be still referencing these cells. What I've done here doesn't mean that necessarily it has to be in line with it. I could even start from somewhere here and do equals this, and then enter and do autofill with that. Or I can do autofill in this way, and look at what is happening. It is going in this direction because I am going this direction. Now when I come this direction to it start to do there. So this one is it is referencing the cell relatively to where I am, or relative to this one. So wherever I start and then I reference it this way, the more I go down, the more it also goes down like that in relation to this. So if I'm going down this way, it also try to increase the rows, or go down the rows. If I'm going across columns, it tries to reference across columns too. So you see how this is. So that is the relative. It is in relation, or it relates to the previous reference or the previous data. So if you reference the data and then you try to go across columns, it also tries to go across columns. Now take note of this. When you go down, you see that the rows are increasing, that the columns, you see that the column is still A. As far as we remain in the same column, it will also remain in the same column. But when we moved to different column, you see that the column has changed. In this case, the column changes and then the row still remains because we haven't moved down a row. We are moving only across columns. So it will also move across columns. When we move down a row, then the row will also change. So for instance, let me try to do across columns and across rows. So equals, if I do this and this time around I try to go to the left and down and down. So look at this. So this is A1. When I go here is B1. I come down is B2. So B1, A1, So when you move here, the column will change, and when you move down, the rows will change. So this is the relative cell referencing, and if you want it to remain without these ones changing, let's say the columns changing, then you have to introduce the absolute cell referencing. Before we move to the absolute cell referencing, let's look at the copy and paste kind of thing. So if I copy this formula and I paste it here, look at what happened. It says D1. It is trying to understand what you are doing. You moved from here and pasted it here. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4. You moved 4 columns, so it also starts 1, 2, 3, 4. So it moved 4 columns. So it looked at this formula. This formula is referencing this, and it looks in relation to this. How many columns did you move? 4. So the data there will just be shown. So you see, it also works in copy and paste. So if I copy this D, and I move 1, 2, 3, 4, and I paste, look at what happens. H1. So D 1, 2, 3, 4. So it comes to H1. So that is it. So it moves in relation to the reference. So this one is referencing this. This one is rather referencing D1. And as I copied and moved, it also moved in relation to the number of columns I moved. If I moved a row down, it would have moved a row down too. So the more you move this way, it is also moving this direction. Alright, so that is with the relative cell referencing. Now let's move to the absolute cell referencing. With the absolute, we try to say that something like, if I have some values and I want to multiply these values by a number up here. So if I multiply these values by a number up here, right, this time around there's no number there, so let me type a number there. It means this value is multiplying the 60. I want to multiply the 72 by the 60. So you see that this one says J8 times H7. But before this complex one, I think this one we are using two things here. Let me give you a simple one, or let me do a simple one here before we come back to this one. So if I do absolute, we place the cursor inside the formula and press F4, and you see there's a dollar symbol in front of the row number and then in front of the column number. That means this row and this column will not change even if I copy and paste. It will still remain A17. So let's try it. So if I copy this and I paste it here, instead of it to move from A17, it moves 1, 2, 3, 4. It is not moving. So when you come here, you see that it is still A17. It is not moving. So even if you do autofill, it is still the same thing over and over and over again. It makes sure that it still remains a constant. So that is absolute cell referencing. This one is absolute to both the column and the row. Now if you want to make it absolute to only the column, this is how it is. The dollar will only block the column and leave the row. It means that when I copy this, and you see it's the row that is not blocked. So if I move across the column, let me do this. across the rows, it will change. Okay, it will change. Now when I move across columns, it will never change because it is still the same column. A, when you come here, it's a different column, but instead of it to change to a different column, you say no, don't change the column, don't change the column, don't change the column. So it doesn't change the column when I'm moving across columns, but it changes rows when I'm moving across rows because I haven't blocked the rows. Now the same thing applies to when this time around I block only the row. So when you press F4 for the first time, it blocks everything. You press it again, it blocks only the row. You press it again and it blocks the column, only the column. So let me do it again and block only the row. Now that I've blocked only the row, it means that when I move across columns, it will change. Okay, so let me this place, I don't think you get it well. So let me see. Let me try to put some numbers here. 3, 4, 5, 2, 45, 56. Okay, so this is a reference in B19. We want to block the row. So if you block the row, what does it mean? It means that when I'm moving down, the row will not change. So if I'm moving down, it means 2 will not come, 3 will not come, 4 will not come. So look at this. It's still only 1. But when I move across column, it says column is free. So it means 23 will come. So look at this. Yeah. So that's it. So if you move across columns, that one changes. When you move across rows, it doesn't change. The same way when I block only the column, it works that way. So the column will not change when I move across columns, but when I move across rows, it will rather be changing. So that one, let's do it once again. So let's do that one here. So equals this, and this time around, let's block only the column. So F4 again. So across rows, it will take the 1 to 5. But across columns, it will not. It will still remain 1. So that is with the relative and absolute cell referencing. So if you block all, it means that it is only 1. So let's come back to our multiplication. So this one, we are multiplying this G8 by this. We are multiplying this by this. We are multiplying this by that. So when moving downwards, rows change. So here, what does it mean? It means that we cannot block our row in the G column. So rows change because as we autofill downwards, it must be changing so that it will multiply by the H7. So if rows are changing, we want to block the column so that when we move across columns, this will not change column. We only want this column to multiply by whatever is here. So we block only the column. Now the second part is the H7. H7, we don't want it to change to anywhere. The row, the column, we want it to remain at 60. So it means we have to block everything. Then we block it. So now if we do autofill, 9 times 60 gives you that, 8 times 60 gives you that, because 8 was here. Right. So that is absolute and relative cell referencing. I hope you have understood this particular one. Thank you and have a nice day.